A little while ago, I had mentioned in the video, one of my using wheelchair accessible restroom videos, that it would be nice if I had an extension, um, so that I could not have to not have to transfer from my wheelchair to to the toilet um, seat, or I could also just kind of put my catheter in the side pedestal, um, or the thing that the wall-mounted urinal, um, and not have to, not have a difficult time reaching it, um, because my catheter is only so long, and it doesn't seem to reach the urinal very well. So it would be nice if I had an extension on my catheter. And an old friend of mine, an old YouTube friend of mine, mentioned he had an extension. He has an extensions, um, and I just didn't know they were available. And I, it makes sense that they're available. I mean, that people have them. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's having this difficulty. I felt like I had seen them before at one time, but just the occurrence of people in wheelchair, of two people in a wheelchair at the same time using the same restroom, is very, very infrequent. I think that I've encountered that maybe once or twice in my 20 years in as being a paraplegic in a wheelchair. So it's very, very infrequently that I experience today. Another wheelchair person using the restroom at the same time that I'm using the restroom. Um, but So it was really cool that my old friend, my old YouTube friend, mentioned the extension, and I asked my home health nurse if she could get me a couple of those catheter extensions, and she didn't know what they were. And my old YouTube friend, he said that she probably wouldn't know what they were, and so I didn't know what they were. But then I looked up on I don't know, just one of the websites. I can't remember what it was. And I saw extension or catheter extensions, um, but I didn't see instructions on how to use it. So what I'm doing here, and I'm not the sharpest stick in the woods. So I'm trying, I'm sticking the catheter in one end of the tube, and I'm sticking the catheter in the other end of the tube, and you know, I I couldn't figure it out, um, 'cause I'm a knucklehead. Uh, but I finally, there was no instructions that came with the extender, so I didn't know how to do it. I knew that it was an extender, and I knew that it was gonna work. I felt like it was gonna work, but the way that I was putting the catheter, attaching the catheter to the extension tube, uh, it just didn't look like it was going to work. So what I did finally was I tried all sorts of different ways, and I figured, well, the the urine comes out of the green end, and I thought, well, maybe I need to pull that green part off of the catheter. And remember, the catheter here is clean, so it's fresh, so it's not like I did anything with it or got dirty or anything like that. But then I figured, oh, well, in that green end, then I could stick part of the extension tube. So I did that. That was like, after a few minutes, then I figured, well, that was probably the way to do it. So, um, if you look at plumbing systems, then they have tubes that plug into each other, and it doesn't look like they'll work. It doesn't look like they'll seal each other. They'll seal up very well, but they do because of the pressure, because pushing two hoses into each other, and then the plastic seals it up pretty nicely. Um, so that's how it works out. Now I don't know if the difficulty, um, because the drainage was really, really slow. Uh, it ended up taking about 5 minutes for me to catheterize, and it does not take that long for me to catheterize. I mean, I'm sure my bladder was full, probably maybe 2,000 cc's, or maybe, what's it, 66 ounces, something like that. So it was probably extremely full, but still, it shouldn't have taken that long. But with this extender, then it takes a long time. It takes a long time to catheterize. So you got to take the good with the bad. There's, it's nice to not be able to have to transfer from your wheelchair to the toilet to catheterize, but then then it takes a long time to catheterize. And it was good here. I'm pushing the toilet flush thing because it's a sensor. This toilet thing is a sensor, so if my body was in the way, then it would have noticed that it was time to flush toilet whenever I transferred back into my wheelchair. The water spout is also, or the sink is also a sensor thing, and the foam, the soap, it's that foam stuff, and I don't like. That's my personal view. I don't like that foam stuff. I think it's, I don't know. I just don't like it. I'd rather have the liquid soap to wash the hands. I don't really care like the foam stuff. But what I did was I disattached the extension from my catheter, and I washed out my catheter. I have a pretty good system, so I don't get UTIs very often, and I know that a lot of you paraplegics and quadriplegics are very sensitive to urinary tract infections, but I just don't get them that often. So that's why I can reuse some catheters. Even though my YouTube friend was saying that he's reused that extension a few times. I'm sure I'm sure he did what I did right here was just wash it out in the sink, or maybe he, used a good soap and water, and he did a big time washing, or maybe he put it in the dish. I don't know what he did, but that the paper towel dispenser is also motion sensing. So and I got big hands, so it usually takes a while to dry off my hands, or use a lot of paper towels to dry off my hands. You can use one of those air things to blow dry your hands, and sometimes I do that, but it's a little nicer to have the paper towel, because the paper towel, after I get done drying off my hands, then I can keep the paper towel and I can use the paper towel to open up the door, to open up the handle of the door, the bathroom door, and pull it open. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting the extension back into this plastic bag, but that's kind of a bad thing because the extension is a little bit wet, and the plastic bag keeps bacteria and things like that sealed in the plastic bag. So so it's good and bad at the same time because it doesn't let bacteria in, but then it's bad because it doesn't it keeps some of the bacteria that is in there. It's a very, very tiny amount, but I'm sure that it gets a larger amount as time goes on.